With the 2024 NFL regular season nearing its conclusion, the Green Bay Packers are looking like one of the top teams in the league, while simultaneously sitting in third place within their own division. That is a bit of misfortune for them, but they will be in the playoffs and are a reasonable Super Bowl contender. As it stands, the 2024 Packers are among the best third-place teams during the entire Super Bowl era. But who are the 10 best through the end of the 2023 season? That's the question we're going to be answering today, and we will be answering it the way we always do, by using C-Score, a metric created by this channel to evaluate every single NFL team during the Super Bowl era, beyond simply looking at their records. A further explanation of C-Score is available in the description of this video. Just to clarify, the teams we are using for this exercise are those who finished third in the actual NFL standings, not by C-Score. Where there were ties, we took the team that finished third by the NFL tiebreakers that were in place at the time. Thank you for joining us today. We are ready to go. We start things off at number 10 with the Buffalo Bills from all the way back in 1975. Their 8-8 record and positive 65-point differential came from all their scoring, as they led the league in that category. Their C-score sits at 15.357. The 1975 AFC East belonged to the resurgent Baltimore Colts, coming off a 1-4 start and a 2-12 record the season before. The Miami Dolphins secured second place with their 10-4 record, leaving Buffalo in third place. In an era where only one team from each conference made the playoffs as a wild card, the Bills by definition could not qualify as a third place team. Even the Dolphins in second place failed to qualify. Not only did the Bills lead the league in scoring, but they did so against the league's fourth hardest schedule. They did allow their fair share in though, sixth most in the league, and they did themselves few favors by going 1-3 against the teams above them in their division. Next up at number 9 are the 2012 Chicago Bears. They managed a 10-6 record and a plus 98 point differential, led primarily by their defense, finishing third in the league in points allowed, culminating in a C-score of 15.73. Coming off a 15-1 season, the Green Bay Packers dropped to 11-5 in 2012, but were able to retain their NFC North Division championship. The Minnesota Vikings tied the Bears at 10-6, but Minnesota went 4-2 in the division against Chicago's 3-3, not only giving them second place, but also nabbing the NFC's sixth and final playoff spot. The Bears started the season at 7-1 and looked like legitimate Super Bowl contenders. A 1-5 run followed, including 4 losses by 1 possession, with one of those in overtime, dooming them. Those 3 division losses all came to those 2 teams ahead of them in the standings, including the last 2 games of that 1-5 run. We have our second team from the 1975 season, with the Houston Oilers taking the 8th spot. At 10-4 with a plus 67 point differential and top 12 finishes across our 3 categories, the Oilers landed a C-score of 15.934. It's the 1970s, so the AFC Central still very much belonged to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the defending Super Bowl champions topped the division at 12-2. It was the Cincinnati Bengals who finished second, going 11-3 and claiming the AFC sole wildcard spot that the Miami Dolphins missed out on. The Oilers enjoyed their first winning season since the merger, indeed their first since 1967 when they played for the AFL Championship. In fact, they were 10-0 against the NFL at large when discounting the 2 teams ahead of them in the Central. Of course, that means they went 0-4 against them, where just 1 victory likely sends them to the postseason. The only team on this countdown without a winning record are the 2006 Jacksonville Jaguars, landing here in the 7th spot. Their point differential and their rankings indicate a much better record, as does their C-score of 16.171. Peyton Manning was still a member of the Indianapolis Colts in 2006, and as the rare quarterback who actually does carry his offense, they handily won the AFC South, on their way to winning the Super Bowl. It was the Tennessee Titans who tied the Jaguars at 8-8, winning the tiebreaker for second place based on division record. Tennessee was in no way better than Jacksonville though. Indeed, the Jags are the greatest 8-8 team in NFL history. But the fact is that they were 8-8, losing their final 3 games of the season to seal their fate. They did go 2-2 against the teams ahead of them in the division, but were swept by the last place Houston Texans. The AFC West had a lot of highly competitive divisions during the 1980s. The 1984 Los Angeles Raiders give us this entry at number 6 with their 11-5 record, their plus 90 point differential, and their top 9 performance in all of our categories. Their C-score sits at 16.558. Only 4 teams in the entire NFL had a better record than the defending Super Bowl champion Raiders. It just so happens that 2 of them resided within their division. The Denver Broncos won their first division title in 6 seasons at 13-3, while the Seattle Seahawks smashed their way to a 12-4 record. But unlike the other teams we've looked at to this point, and will look at going forward, the Raiders did qualify for the playoffs, earning a trip to Seattle. After being swept by the Broncos and splitting with the Seahawks during the regular season, the Raiders lost the rubber match and made it no further. Funny enough, they lost that game 13-7 after also ending the regular season with a 13-7 loss. We begin the second half of the countdown with the NFL's first post-merger season, represented here by the St. Louis Cardinals. They finished 8-5-1, outscored their opponents by 97 points, and were top 5 in both points scored and points allowed, pulling in a C-score of 17.793. The Dallas Cowboys didn't have an easy time of it in 1970, but they did manage to win the East with a 10-4 record, before becoming the first ever NFC champion. The New York Giants took second at 9-5, sitting a half a game ahead of the Cardinals. Like the Bills before them, the Cardinals were automatically locked out of a playoff spot as a third-place team. The Cards had a coach named Winner, and he lived up to his name during the first 11 games of the season. Their sparkling 8-2-1 start couldn't survive the season's final 3 games though, all losses. And despite a season sweep of the division and conference champion Cowboys, they took the sweep against the Giants, and their season was over. The Buffalo Bills are back, this time at number 4 with their 2004 squad. They may have only gone 9-7, but they powered their way to a positive 111 point differential, complete with top 10 finishes in points scored and allowed, with a C-score of 17.831. The 2004 AFC East is one of the absolute best divisions of the entire Super Bowl era, and it was led by the powerful New England Patriots at 14-2. The New York Jets finished well behind at 10-6, but locked up second place and a wildcard spot. 10-6 was the requirement for a postseason berth in the AFC this season, so 9-7 didn't do it for Buffalo. They started the year at 0-4 and sat at 3-6 before starting to make good with a 6-game winning streak. A loss to the Steelers' B team ended the season on the sourest of notes though, this following a 1-3 record against the AFC East's top 2 teams, leaving Buffalo in the perpetual wilderness. We're going all the way back to the very first season of the Super Bowl era. At number 3 are the 1966 Cleveland Browns, a 9-5 team with a stellar point differential of plus 144. They rode their powerful offense to the tune of a 17.845 C-score. The NFL's Eastern Conference was won by the Dallas Cowboys, providing them passage to the NFL title game. The Browns tied with the Philadelphia Eagles for second place. Now, back in 1966, the second place team in each conference went on to what was known as the Playoff Bowl, ostensibly a third place game. The Eagles played in that game, indicating that they were the official second place team, leaving the Browns in third. But I don't know why. They split their two games during the season, but Cleveland outscored them in those two games, and they had a better record in the conference. So, go figure on how the tiebreakers worked, or even if they had tiebreakers. Cleveland was the much better team though, clearing Philly in C-score by more than 22 points. They're back! At number 2, we have a team we've covered once or twice before on this channel, the 2005 San Diego Chargers. The numbers are here to see, numbers they accomplished against the league's hardest schedule. They break the 20-point barrier in C-score at 21.623. In short, the AFC West in 2005 looked like this. The Denver Broncos won it at 13-3, the Kansas City Chiefs grabbed second place but missed the playoffs at 10-6, and the San Diego Chargers landed in third. And like so many other teams on this list, the Chargers stumbled down the stretch and finished 1-3 against the two teams ahead of them in the standings. All that said, the Chargers were in the midst of one of the greatest runs in NFL history that failed to result in a Super Bowl appearance, and this season was just part of the suffering they reveled in putting themselves through. Heartbreak, thy name is Chargering. But at number 1 are the 1991 San Francisco 49ers. 10-6, outscoring their opponents by almost 10 points per game, third in the league in scoring, fourth in points allowed, with a schedule that just missed the top 10. All of that was good for a C-score of 25.849. In their 25th season of existence, the New Orleans Saints finally won their first ever division title, capturing the NFC West at 11-5 behind their 4 Pro Bowl linebackers. The Atlanta Falcons tied with the Niners at 10-6, but Atlanta took second place and the NFC's 6th seed through their inexplicable season sweep of the 49ers. That sweep took place during their 4-6 start to the season. A 6-0 rampage through the end wasn't enough, and the 49ers go down in history as not only the greatest third-place team during the Super Bowl era, but also the best team since the 1970 merger that missed the playoffs. No surprise here, San Francisco went 1-3 against the teams ahead of them in the standings. Looking now at the top 10 as a whole, we have 2 repeats, and they both involve the Bills. Buffalo show up at number 4 with their 2004 squad, and at number 10 with their 1975 squad, the only franchise with 2 separate appearances. That 75 squad comes from the same season as our number 8 entry, the Houston Oilers, making that the only season with 2 separate appearances. Numbers 10 through 3 are pretty tight, with fewer than 2.5 points of separation in C-score. It's here where we get some jumps. Nearly 4 points from 3 to 2, and more than 4 points from 2 to 1. But at the end of Week 16 in the 2024 season, the third place in their own division Packers have a second best in the entire league C-score of 22.39. Providing quite the opportunity to upend this list once the season is over. Thank you so much for getting to this point in the video. You would do both the video and the channel a great service by hitting that like button, sharing it around, and subscribing if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to ding the bell to be notified of all future videos. Was there another team you thought would make this list? Any of these teams surprised you maybe? Let me know your thoughts on this, anything else from this video, or anything else you may have on your mind. Thank you once again for joining us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.